Today on a video we're gonna get over the mechanic of a crvUSD, and on the call also Alexander, our product, which will ask questions. Kind of it's internal call, but since we're gonna get over the essentially educational material, so it might be very well worth to share it because someone might find it interesting. So let me start. Basically, there is a project called Curve, and it's a known stablecoin DEX which can exchange like different stablecoins like USDT to USDC, for example, and etc. And they introduced some time ago, I believe white paper was actually in 2023 published about the stablecoin which called crvUSD. And this, and also Alexandra, feel free to interrupt me anytime you feel that you're not really catching up, because again, it's an educational purpose, like for you as much as for me. All right?
Okay.
So this stablecoin crvUSD have a interesting design, which is a little bit different from our typical, let's say, MakerDAO CDP stablecoin. Although strictly from how I understand, it's actually closer to CDP than to anything else. One thing, how they have it, they have a special, they call it back keepers. So it's little contracts which essentially have some kind of like ability to mint this crvUSD versus like USDT or USDC. There are, like, if I go here on the, well, I think I close the curve. Let me open it like crvUSD. I also borrow about $30,000 worth of this crvUSD, and before I borrow about the same amount of money on Compound. So, and before that, bigger money on Aave. So have like first-hand experience, like how to compare it from user experience point of view. But essentially, here you can see like the trading pairs, which we call back keepers. And you can think it as a curve pool. It's akin free CRV pairs. So there are standard pair, like if you see on a DEX where you can trade like stablecoin to in our stablecoin. So it's just liquidity pools essentially with, well, substantial amount of liquidity actually here. And when you wanna borrow money, you actually go here in the like lending market. And what I did in particular, I choose a pool with like lowest interest rate, which was WETHER, this one, because it's borrow APY only like 0.3%, which is like super low. I don't know like how it works exactly, but essentially from like usability point of view, which is like Curve is notorious by the let's say what's the right way to say, unusual approach to UI and user experience overall. Someone likes it, majority of people I know do not like it exactly, but it works. And mechanically speaking, it's actually super cool. I really like the overall idea how it basically implemented the liquidation, because unlike, let's say, Compound or any other like solution like even Maker, I will go to it. They have a special range like P max and P min. We will go to it, but like UI, it's clear. So you just like put here some amount of ether. It doesn't really show my position for some reason, but again, user experience, in my opinion, can be somewhat improved. But yeah, so I have here 19 ether, and if I would like to self-liquidate, I have to return about like $27,000 here. And what I did, I just put ether, borrow crvUSD, and exchange with crvUSD to USDC one by one. I pay only like $5 commission on one each to $30,000 exchange, which is great. But let's go back to the how it works internally. So back keepers is essentially just ability to mint back and forth versus like popular stable coins like USDC, USDT. Much more interesting thing, it's about things called soft liquidations. So what is liquidation for people who are not familiar with, like, why is it needed for a stablecoin? Typically in a system like a MakerDAO, let's do it, well, I think yellow would be a great color for MakerDAO, but they have a CDP model, which works how you put here, like, let's say Ether as a collateral, and you borrow a certain amount of a DAI. If you want to, like, borrow 10k DAI, you have to deposit like at least 15k worth of Ether, right? So let's say Ether cost right now $2,000 per piece. We have to put like 10 Ether and we can borrow like DAI, but if Ether go down to like 1200 per piece, it's gonna be liquidated. It means like my 10 Ether gonna be sold like all at once in a liquidation event, right? Very similar to marginal call in a perps and etc. What Curve does different, Curve say, you know what? It's actually very bad what we like sell so much collateral immediately, and also there might be situation when like price doesn't really go like this down. If this is, let's say, this is the price, right? And this is the time. Let's say I will just draw here dollar as a representation of a price, and T as a presentation of time. So let's say if like liquidation happens here, what usually happens with Maker, it just gonna have not usually, but almost always, I think always, because like even you have a partial liquidation, I'm not sure Maker have it. They have it in a code, but I'm not really sure do they have it in UI. But anyhow, so what happens here, your 10 ETH are gonna be sold, and whatever, you might have a little left over. Or how it happened in Compound. Compound liquidated me when Ether went down over a certain price threshold. Although I didn't even have this information from Compound. Compound is like a very interesting choice of UI there. When I borrow, it has a liquidation point, but I don't remember that it showed me anything what I got liquidated. So I didn't have any information about UI, at least I didn't notice it, that I was able to actually see it. I mean, we can even like, let's say stake here, let's say stake Ether here. Well, I have to connect it ledger. I don't have it in front of me. But point being, I got silently liquidated, and you know, maybe price was briefly touched, because like price was, I think, 1400s, and right now it bounced back. You know, if like I somehow borrow it a little bit later, I would avoid this liquidation. So essentially, I'm here in a situation when I get sold my collateral on the worst possible price. Like if price continue to go down, it's still good, right? But if the price recovers, I feel kind of stupid, because you know I got, you know, sold when threshold have been reached. But you know, if I would just somehow pass it, I would survive in terms of liquidation. Curve solves that, like this LLAMA-Lend, in very elegant way. So instead of just one like threshold of liquidation, they define certain range of soft liquidation, like they call it like P max and P min. So let's say it would be here like 1800s, and here would be 1600s. In my particular position, I believe it's difficult to see, but it's somewhere here. Yeah, it's 1679 and like a little bit lower, like $100 lower. And what happens is super interesting. When liquidation occurs, it does not really happens in a one atomic big swap, where here, like in Compound and CDP and Avi and any other, like stable unit included, just be honest here, what happened, although like our collateral very complex, so it's really unclear how to swap it back, so it's kind of room for improvement for us, but it's like unclear how anyone could solve engineering at the May of 2025. I don't think it's possible yet. But point being, you have, instead of just one trigger, it's essentially, this trigger is like a limit order. You can think about that. So if price touch this point, you sell it on the market, kind of like stop loss, essentially, in indexes. What they do here differently, they have a little bonding curve. Bonding curve similar to how Uniswap works. So essentially, like if price is above, it's these little dexes, like I don't know, call it a little dex. I don't remember how does it call in terms of llama, But with little DEX haven't, like, it's not active at all. You cannot use it. But as soon as this price reach this P max, let's say it's 1800 here, your DEX became active, so you actually can sell a little bit. And what happens, it gets sell, and as soon as you reach P minimum, all your like LP position essentially here get converts into crvUSD. You know how Uniswap works. Like if price goes down, one assets get like token A gets into token B, and you know if price is lower, you have more token B than token A. And Uniswap v3 now have a little buckets where like basically like it seems like Uniswap v3 very similar system. And what it means exactly, that if price just touch the liquidation threshold, but does not really like go deep down, I don't get liquidated at all. Only a little bit of my collateral gets essentially get liquidated. But the more progressive I go, the more of my collateral gonna be sold on this little DEX. But here's the kicker. So far there is kind of no little difference. Like if I, for example, get back and it's like, oh my god, I get here in a time, you know, where price is still here, I kind of, you know, not completely liquidated, only half liquidated, which might be good. But what Curve did is absolutely amazing. If price recovers, doesn't really matter when, it might be even up to here, actually this DEX still stay active, and it buys out back Ether.
Sorry, I do not see your screen withdrawings.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. So basically here, when price goes down, and after here I got liquidated as I would get liquidated somewhere here on the way, right? So if I have liquidated,
now
let's
I don't
say
see your pointer.
In a 1700s, instead of it, they kind of spread the sell like a little bit, you know, like step by step I get sold from this position to this position.
Alex.
Yeah.
I don't see your cursor, to be honest.
Fair point. So here.
Yes. Yes, now I see it.
So instead of one atomical swap, which will be activated as soon as price touch 1700, it's a soft liquidation, so it's sell little by little. As soon as price touch 1800s, and as soon as price went to 1600, everything gonna be sold. So it's kind of like a smooth selling curve. But the cool idea is not about this. This is partial liquidation is, well, definitely better than atomic in terms of like you can catch somewhere in this range. But honestly, like not a big deal. You know, if I get liquidated partially, I mean, still bad. But you know, I will start getting liquidated earlier than I would do in Aave. So I'll probably would prefer just atomic, to be honest here, because I would prefer to get liquidated as later as possible. But what is cool here is not about that it happens like earlier or later. What it recovers if price goes back. So as soon as price recovers, if it recovers, these little DEX still get involved, and it's gonna buy out Ether on the way up. So if price recovers, I actually earn money, as far as I understand by the mechanic. I cannot verify 100% how it works, but they have a certain interest on the DEX, and supposedly I should earn because of this, or maybe they earn, but doesn't really matter. For me, it's not big deal. What big deal? I do not get liquidated. I get recovers back. I assume what the reason why we need this little DEX instead of just atomic, because like you can do it atomically. Basically, what you can do, say, you know what, as soon as price touch 1700s, sell it by the market cap, but as soon as price touch 1701, buy it by market cap, right? By market price. I could do it without my little DEX. I could just do it some, I don't know, 1 inch limited order or like market order mechanism. But the thing is, if price gonna be oscillated, basically like jerking off near this 1700 threshold, it would be super annoying, right? To do big orders back and forth near just like a sub-dollar price movement. And these Pmax and Pmin range, which is like in this particular case quite noticeable on the size. It's like more than $100 difference. Oh, shut the fuck up. Sorry, just annoying iPhone. Yeah, it's like almost like how many 100 220-ish $225 range, which is like quite noticeable. And like this range moving depends like what is my utilization rate here. And honestly, it's like let me see, I think I have no clue what is this happens. Maybe it's like all these buckets somehow get involved, or maybe it's my bucket in particular, because oh yeah, look, because like I borrow money in about 1st April here when price was above, and prices definitely went down here and it recovers. So I actually get super well, lucky or unlucky when I actually got liquidated. And so because price reached here, I would be totally liquidated in compound or Aave. But what happens, price recovers, and supposedly I still have my 19 worth of WE4 as a collateral. And this is another side of pair, I guess, which I borrowed like $27,000, which I have to return. I'm not really sure, does it really keep track of saying like how much did I borrow? I will check it later, but point being, you know, it's a plus minus how much did I borrow. P&L current value at deposit, profit, minus $1,000. I still somehow lost $1,000 in this. I guess just liquidation penalty somehow. But I mean, if I would be liquidated, or maybe it's because the price is different. Yeah, because like I borrowed by this price was like 1800 and right now it's lower. Maybe P&L calculates like my price of E4. I do not know, so I have to investigate. But point being, if in terms of lending versus base assets, which can be kind of represented as a token on the index curve, because like if you have a complex assets like stable unit, for example, we're doing where we have a LP token as a collateral, or like even like some sort of a PT token from Pendle, those are complex assets. You do not really do, there is no trading volume, nobody buy it on a DEXs. It's kind of complex assets which you have to unwrap into underlying base assets, and for underlying base assets you can totally do it. And this sounds like the most superior lending mechanics I know so far, because in terms of like liquidation, it's like I don't really see downside here. It's I would be, if price ends up here within liquidation range, like above this half up, like here in the graph, let's say draw here. So if price ends up somewhere into this range, I'll probably better to use Aave or classical CDP mechanics, like even ours. But the like probability what of whole range of prices I end up here between Pmax and between this typical threshold of liquidation doesn't sound like was statistically significant, because here I would better do not get, you know, using some, because I would be in my liquidation happens earlier. But anywhere else it seems like below P min doesn't really matter, right? Because I'll probably better be here because I get a little bit liquidated on top. So when I end up below this graphic, here I completely liquidated, but here I still have a little chunk of collateral, which might be, I guess, beneficial. I have to calculate P&L, but like, okay, I'm clear. But kind of below P min doesn't matter. I already get liquidated, right? So who cares? But above that, I definitely better to use this system because I fully recovered. So yeah, this is how I understand how crv USD works. Despite its advantages, it's not very popular as a stable coin. I don't remember what was total market cap, but I imagine it should be less than $200 million right now. Let me check. My internet is a little bit... by the way, do you hear me lagging?
No, I do hear you well.
It's kind of weird because like even my internet is lagging here. Let me see what is the market cap of crvUSD. Well, I assume it's 170. Yeah, sorry, fucking Airbnb in LA. So it did not receive as much utility as a stable coin. But in terms of like stability of a pack, in terms of like ability to borrow stable coin, it sounds like the fairly, oh no, I take my words back. Volatility is quite high. It's kind of weird. Due to the mechanics, it should be like way lower.
And I'm started missing you.
It's okay. I recorded here locally. Unfortunately, I cannot do. If I knew this internet suck, I would not read with Airbnb. It's like absolutely annoying as fuck when you're asking, like in advance, how stable is internet for video call, and they promise, yeah, it's good and everything. I probably should deposit this video on YouTube and like put it in proof and just do like, fucking like Airbnb complaint, because it's like annoying as hell in this situation. I already moved like all your luggage and stuff. But anyhow, this is how I understand crvUSD. This is how I understand how LLAMA-Lend works, and in terms of its advantages, I assume people don't borrow against it as much, that there have to be a reason. So maybe the liquidation threshold overall is very high. Maybe people don't understand the user experience because like, okay, it have a room for improvement. It's definitely nerdy. Or maybe something else. I do not know, but for me, so far, based on how I understand it, it's actually like place to go if I need to borrow stablecoin versus base assets. Base assets such as Ether or some derivatives of Ether like ST or something like that. And in terms of like what's the price of liquidation, what is overall over collateralization, I have to go deeper to know. Maybe it's still better to go in let's say I don't know, fluid, which have capital efficient, like remember it's like DEX and lending protocol at the same time. Do you have any questions?
For me, it's clear. The only thing I'm not sure in is this little DEX. So where do they get liquidity from?
No, liquidity where they get
If
from
it's
is
not
very,
usual pools.
it's very clear. It's your collateral is liquidity. What is not clear for me and how exactly it works, like I assume by documentation it have to be independent. So basically when I create my, let's call it CDP position, I don't know what the technical term for this, but when I created position, essentially my vault, which is like used to call CDP, right now it's called vaults, essentially is this little DEX. Where they get whatever orders from, this is good question. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's arbitrage, maybe 1inch using it somehow. I will ask 1inch like how do they integrate it or not. I assume yes, because like Mike have reasonably good relationship with 1inch, and I have no knowledge about how it works so far. Cannot answer. Real question is like why you cannot recreate this mechanic using Uniswap buckets, because Uniswap with free buckets should work the same. I assume you have a certain range. Maybe the curve is like because it's curve like they definitely master of a particular shape of this curve. Maybe it's superior to what Uniswap has. I'm not really sure. Also, I'm not really sure, does anyone else use this soft liquidation mechanism? I have to use ChatGPT research to go deeper in it. But again, from my user experience so far, and I use like all big lending protocols myself for my real use cases, crvLAMA looks super cool unless the liquidation happened significantly earlier. This I did not calculate. Another thing which might be not really related to this video, but I don't know how to do post-production, so I'm probably not gonna cut. Here on Llama, you have lending aggregators, and well, it's called borrowing aggregator. But the problem is you cannot really go here and say, hey, I have some assets like Ether, I have to choose particular collateral, which is like super stupid to be honest, because if I have Ether, I can exchange it for wEther, I can exchange for any staked Ether or restaked Ether without a problem, with close to no slippage. So I'm not really connected to one particular asset. And if I would like to borrow all stable coins, these things just does not work. I choose all stable coins and it's like, just doesn't work. Okay, let's say Ether or like WEther, because like, you know, such a big difference between Ether and WEther. Sure, include incentives, and I would like to borrow against stablecoin, and that's it. It's just like, it's not clickable. I click here and it just doesn't work. So I'm wondering how the other people are looking for this, but honestly, I feel that there is a huge room for improvement here. So maybe I can just vibe code it tonight, some little aggregator if it's like not very complex. But point being, curve look very, very good in terms of like the interest rate, but because of interest rate is so low, I'm not really sure how it's, well, maybe it's possible because like, question that I'm not really sure where they take USDT liquidity. How do they bootstrap their pools? Using like governments, maybe subsidy, etc. Because like the current interest rate of 0.3% versus Ether cannot be self-sustainable.
I can assume something.